So I have the ISFJT personality type, and it says defender personality type. The I standing for introverted, which I do agree with. I do tend to be drawn towards like smaller groups rather than larger or more social settings. S sensing, I agree with that because I do tend to thrive from more hands-on approaches. F feeling, I do describe myself as very empathetic and considerate. J judging, which at first I was a bit confused about the meaning for that because I just initially thought like judgmental, but after I did research that more, it seems like that means like to be more structured. I like to plan things out, so I do agree with that. And then turbulent, which means that we, as that personality type, tend to be more self-critical, but also motivated by our desire to improve ourselves. And so I definitely agree with that. So yeah, for the most part, I do agree with my results. I definitely see correlation between myself and the ISFJT personality types. Some of the most relatable things that I saw like in my research of this personality type was how they can be very observant. This relates to me because I do often notice small details, especially in people that are close to me, such as like emotional shifts and things like that. Like I can always tell when like my coworkers or even family members are like just in like a certain type of mood. I can just tell by their tone changes and just differences in their habits. Also, from my research, it seems like this personality type is very loyal, and I agree with that because I'm a very committed person when it comes to my relationships, whether it be like a romantic partner or like my friendships. And this also correlates a lot to my own goals. Once I set my mind on something, I give it my all. And one thing that I do disagree with a little bit is like, it seems like this personality type, whenever it was just describing like how we may have like difficulty saying no, or like just very influenced by like how others perceive us and like worrying about letting others down. I will say like at a time I probably had an issue with that, but as I've grown, I definitely am more confident and I understand my own limits, as well as respect and value my own time even more. So I don't really have an issue with that as much anymore. I think that individuals with different personality styles may view me as reserved. A lot of people have described me as modest in their first impressions. My close friends describe me as dependable, reliable, and as someone that they feel emotionally safe with. Also thoughtful. And then according to my research, the opposite personality trait would be a ENTPA personality trait type. And they would probably think that I'm quiet or maybe even shy. They might think that I play it safe because I do usually like to stick to the plan instead of thriving on change or like new experiences or things like that. And they might also possibly think that I'm overly cautious just because of the lack of risks I'm willing to take. Again, just because I am usually like a stick to the plan kind of person, or like to have a set schedule or goals for things. In group chat settings, I'm usually one to be more observant. I don't usually start conversations as much, but I feel like I'm very like responsive. I do try to be active in group chats as much as possible. Again, I might just not take initiative as much. In decision making, I would say maybe overanalyze situations. I think very carefully and consider pros and cons and different outcomes. And then I also often consider everyone's feelings involved, and just everyone's perspective before I do make a decision. In conflict, as this personality type, Mainly in moments of conflict, I tend to try to understand people's perspectives, and I'm usually quiet and, again, observant. I'm quick to like apologize if I do feel like I'm in the wrong, and sometimes I do struggle with avoiding confrontation or holding back from things that I may want to say, just to try to keep the peace somewhat. In team presentations, I'm often very prepared and organized. I don't prefer to have the spotlight or to be the main one talking, but I do contribute as much as I can in other ways. And just to go over some strengths and weaknesses, I'll go over strengths first. So strengths, I pay attention a lot to self-improvement. Just some examples, like I usually have like a list of goals, whether it be short-term or long-term, and then just, you know, different approaches I can take to accomplish those goals. And that's something that I always try to do for myself in order to make sure that I am constantly improving myself. I'm like very organized and well planned, I'd say. Like I like to have a list for everything. Like I have so many lists on my phone or like sticky notes around my desk just to keep me on track and to make sure that everything's in order. And then some of my weaknesses would be, I'd say, self-critical thinking, just because sometimes I am a lot harder on myself than I would be on others. And like sometimes when like something happens or like I don't give something my all, then it can just kind of keep replaying on my mind, and I kind of beat myself up about certain things. I don't want to say like I'm a perfectionist, but at the same time, like I do have very high standards for myself. So when I don't meet those standards, I can be very disappointed, to say the least. And then I'd say suppressing my feelings would be another weakness that I have as this personality trait, just because, again, sometimes I will hold back my feelings just to like not cause problems with other people or to not maybe offend them or cause any conflict. Also, I've gained insight on how critical I can be towards myself within doing this research, and I really didn't think about how like that really affects me, I guess, or how negative that can be for myself. And so based on me learning about that, I feel as though I can take a step to improve my communication by practicing expressing my thoughts and ideas more often and more confidently, even if they aren't what I consider perfect. In a team setting or team environment, I mainly need structure, stability, and organization to be able to thrive. And my ideal team environment as a metaphorical space, I said a library, just because everything is well organized, labeled, and has its designated space, and it's not chaotic and very calm. And I'd say I resonate well with supportive, respectful communication styles. I tend to choose my words very carefully, and I try to communicate in a way that assures others that I understand and am mindful of their perspectives. The things that make me shut down my motivation and or creativity are constant criticism or lack of appreciation. And then lastly, I'll go over the feedback that I received from 2 discussion partners. So I did ask my best friend, the question to describe my communication in 1 sentence. And she just said that I tend to communicate very thoughtfully and calculated. I also asked a coworker to describe my communication style, and they described it as supportive and effective, which I definitely agree. In a team setting, I do tend to be very supportive, and I love cheering people on and providing motivation if I can. So I hope that this covered everything as far as my personality type and helped you guys to get to know me a little bit more.